the life support failing, his father badly wounded and bleeding out, as everyone turned a blind eye except for one distant species called humans. The ruthless insectoid Krillthak soldiers had blown Murloc's homeworld to smithereens, decimating cities, slaughtering civilians. Murloc and his parents, Zoran and Arena, barely escaped the burning ruins in a small shuttle. But Zoran took shrapnel to the gut. Now they drifted helplessly through space, running out of air, Zoran's blood pooling on the floor. They sent distress calls, but no one responded, until a Krillthak warship locked onto their signal. The insectoids wanted to finish the job. "Help us, anyone, please!" Arena cried desperately over the comms. But the nearby alien ships ignored them. The pacifist Zleen, the greedy Orlik, the haughty Binar. They all switched off their comms and warped away. Only a strange new species, calling themselves humans, responded to the call. But the human ship was small, lightly armed, and 30 minutes away. The Krillthak opened fire. The Zorgaxian shuttle's shields failed. They had 5 minutes left, tops. They didn't know if the humans would make it in time, or if these unknown beings would risk their lives to help strangers of another species. All Murloc and his family could do was pray. The Krillthak warship loomed ever closer, its weapons locked onto the crippled Zorgaxian shuttle. Murloc huddled against his mother, tears streaming down his face as he watched his father struggle to breathe. The pool of purple blood beneath Zoran was growing larger by the second. Suddenly, a chorus of new voices burst through the comms. A small fleet of ships had arrived in response to their distress call, representing various species from across the galaxy. "This is the Galactic Council fleet," a firm voice announced. "We are assessing the situation." Hope flickered in Arena's eyes. She clutched Murloc tightly as she leaned forward, desperate to hear more. There was a long pause, filled only with the hiss of static. Then a somber voice spoke again. "The Zorgaxian family is in grave danger, but we cannot risk a direct confrontation with the Krillthak. Their military might is too great." Murloc's heart sank. He looked up at his mother, seeing the hope drain from her face. "We offer our deepest sympathies and support in this trying time," another voice chimed in, sounding almost bored. "Rest assured, we will take diplomatic action against the Krillthak for this atrocity." "Diplomatic action," Arena whispered, her voice trembling with rage and despair. "My husband is dying, my child is terrified. We need help now." But her pleas were met with silence. The Council ships hung back, keeping a safe distance from the looming Krillthak warship. Murloc pressed his face against the cold viewport, watching as the insectoid ship grew larger and larger. He could see the glow of its weapons powering up, ready to deliver the final blow. "Mama," he whimpered, burying his face in her shoulder. "I'm scared." Arena held him close, her own body shaking with fear and grief. "I know, baby, I know." Just as all hope seemed lost, a new voice crackled through the comms. It was deep and commanding, with a strange accent that Murloc had never heard before. "This is Captain Marcus Reynolds of the Earth Alliance vessel Resolve," the voice said. "We are en route to your location and will arrive in approximately 15 minutes. Hold on, Zorgaxian shuttle. Help is on the way." Arena's heart raced as she heard the human captain's words. A glimmer of hope sparked within her, even as the Krillthak warship loomed ever closer. She clutched Murloc tightly, whispering reassurances to her terrified child. On the bridge of the Resolve, Captain Reynolds stood tall, his eyes fixed on the view screen. The Krillthak vessel filled the display, its angular hull bristling with weapons. "Helm, set an intercept course," he ordered, his voice steady and calm. "Tactical, prepare to engage the enemy ship. We need to give that Zorgaxian shuttle a chance." His crew leaped into action, their fingers flying across consoles as they carried out his commands. The Resolve surged forward, its engines flaring brightly as it raced towards the Krillthak warship. The insectoid ship opened fire, lancing beams of searing energy towards the human vessel, but the Resolve was ready. Its advanced shields absorbed the brunt of the assault, shimmering with a brilliant blue light as they dissipated the destructive energy. Return fire, Captain Reynolds barked. Target their weapon systems. The Resolve's own weaponry came to life, sending a barrage of missiles and beam weapons towards the Krillthak ship. The human weapons were unlike anything the insectoids had faced before, sleek, powerful, and guided by advanced targeting systems. Explosions blossomed across the Krillthak hull as the human weapons found their mark. The insectoid ship reeled, its own shields straining under the onslaught. In the Zorgaxian shuttle, Murloc watched in awe as the human ship danced around the Krillthak warship, evading its attacks with a grace that belied its size. The Resolve seemed to anticipate the insectoid ship's every move, always staying one step ahead. But even as the battle raged, the Zorgaxian shuttle's life support system sputtered and died. The air grew thin and stale, and the temperature plummeted. Murloc shivered, his breath fogging in the frigid air. Arena looked down at Zoran, her heart breaking as she saw the life fading from his eyes. His breaths came in shallow gasps, his purple blood congealing on the floor. "Hold on, my love," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Just a little longer." On the Resolve's bridge, Captain Reynolds watched as the Zorgaxian shuttle's vital signs flickered and faded. He knew they were running out of time. "Prepare for emergency transport," he ordered, his voice tight with urgency. "Lock onto the Zorgaxian life signs and beam them directly to the medical bay." His crew hesitated for a moment, their eyes widening with surprise. Transporting unknown aliens aboard was a risky move, one that could potentially expose the ship to unforeseen dangers. But Captain Reynolds was adamant. "We're not going to let them die out there," he said firmly. "Energize." In a shimmering haze of light, Murloc, Arena, and Zoran disappeared from their crippled shuttle and rematerialized on the Resolve. They collapsed to the floor of the medical bay, gasping for air and shivering violently. The human medical team leaped into action, their movements swift and precise. They lifted Zoran onto a biobed, their advanced scanners already assessing his injuries. Murloc clutched his mother's hand, his eyes wide with fear and confusion as he took in the strange surroundings. The human ship was unlike anything he had ever seen before, all sleek lines and gleaming metal, with technology that seemed almost magical to his young mind. But even in the midst of his fear, Murloc couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. The humans had risked everything to save his family, even when no one else would. They had shown a courage and compassion that he had never seen before. As the medical team worked frantically to stabilize Zoran, Captain Reynolds stepped into the room. He looked down at Murloc and Arena, his eyes filled with a warmth and kindness that transcended the barriers of species and language. "You're safe now," he said softly. "We'll do everything we can to help your family." And for the first time since the Krillthak had attacked their homeworld, Murloc felt a glimmer of hope for the future. The human medical bay was a flurry of activity as the doctors and nurses worked to save Zoran's life. They moved with a sense of urgency, their hands a blur as they applied pressure to the gaping wound in his abdomen. Murloc watched in awe as they used strange devices that emitted beams of light and hummed with energy. One doctor, a tall human with kind eyes, leaned over Zoran and spoke in a soothing voice. "Stay with us, Zoran. You're in good hands now." Murloc couldn't understand the words, but the tone was comforting. He clung to his mother's hand as she wept softly, her eyes fixed on her husband's still form. The human doctors worked for what felt like hours, their brows furrowed with concentration. They used techniques and technology that Murloc had never seen before, even in the most advanced hospitals on his homeworld. Finally, the tall doctor stepped back and wiped his brow. He turned to Arena and spoke softly. "He's stable now. We've repaired the damage to his internal organs and stopped the bleeding. He'll need time to recover, but he's going to be okay." Arena let out a sob of relief and pulled Murloc close. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Thank you so much." The doctor smiled warmly and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're welcome. We're just glad we could help."